A possibility exists that they may go to the Supreme Court of Appeal and go to the Constitutional Court, which unfortunately on our part, it will be regrettable because it will have an effect on the trial resuming on the 11th of April, which will cause an unnecessary delay in those proceedings.
I just beg your pardon, when you came on live on the SABC News channel, you had already started. Your first point that you raised, of course, in terms of what Judge Piet Koen has said in his judgment. You had said initially as the NPA that you had felt that there was no basis for the special plea by former President Jacob Zuma, also questioning the timing of his application.
Yes, the judge sustained our arguments that this was an irregular step that they took, and it was not desirable in the interest of justice that you adopt a piecemeal approach in appeals, because this is an appeal that should have been lodged at the conclusion of the trial, not pre-trial. Secondly, they have raised the issue of political interference. They have raised the issue of bias on the part of Advocate Billy Downer in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. Even if they go back there, they will be told this matter has been judicially determined and pronounced upon. That's why Judge Koen today pronounced upon that issue and raised it and say that state's argument should be sustained because this matter has been dealt with by the Supreme Court of Appeal. The regrettable thing that they would do is to take this matter back to Supreme Court of Appeal because it will have a delay in the resumption of trial on the 11th of April. You remember that we had our witnesses here ready to proceed with the trial and ready to take the stand. We are hoping that they will not make that mistake.
What do you make of these applications by the former president? Do you feel, to sum it up, that he is trying to delay the start of this trial?
They have the inevitable effect of delaying the trial. But I cannot say that this is a delaying technique. I'm unable to say that because he's exploring that which is a legal avenue that's available to him. You can appeal, but it depends on the nature of the appeal, whether you are appealing at the right time or not, which we argue he is appealing at the wrong time.
Mr. Manga, is this a moment of vindication for the NPA? As we often hear the word that the charges against the former president is politically motivated. So is this a moment of vindication?
We've said it clearly that we're coming to this trial with clean hands. The issue of political interference on the part of the NPA and the prosecution was pronounced upon by the Supreme Court of Appeal. And as such, this is a vindication on our part because that argument has been sustained to say this matter was pronounced upon by the Supreme Court of Appeal. That's what Judge Koen says.
Before I let you go, Dr. Mhaga, of course, there was that other matter of former President Jacob Zuma opening a case against Advocate Billy Downer. The last we spoke with you, you'd said that it was still before the head of the NPA in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Any movement there?
No decision has been taken in that regard. The matter is objectively being dealt with by the DPP in KZN.
Advocate Mhaga, we appreciate your time. The spokesperson there of the NPA, Advocate Mhaga, of course, saying that they are pleased as the National Prosecuting Authority with the judgment today. The court, Judge Piet Koen, dismissing former President Jacob Zuma's leave to appeal the special plea application. Of course, the court had earlier dismissed his special plea application. With that, I'm going to stop there just for a moment. Viewers, do apologize as we are grabbing key important people to speak to and get their reaction now. The spokesperson for the Jacob Zuma Foundation, Mr. Mzwanele Mani.
Definitely not surprised because we've gotten used to Zuma laws in this country. Here we have a situation where an established legal practice called interlocutory application is being castigated and dismissed as some kind of a piecemeal approach. What nonsense is that? President Zuma did not invent interlocutory application process. Now, why is when that process is being brought to bear, then you have somebody that says it's a piecemeal? This is the rubbishing of the law. So we can't have a situation like that. So what this judge has done, he has set in stage a situation where a fair trial is impossible. We are now in a situation where a criminal suspect is going to be prosecuting President Zuma. It cannot be. So we are going to, as the foundation, we are going to advise President Zuma to go to the next step, to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal. You don't have to be a lawyer to see this injustice. If you say to somebody, you take somebody, you report somebody in a police station, you open a case against that person, it doesn't need a lawyer to know that that person cannot see you objectively, cannot be fair to you, and all of that, because it's another human being. But this court is oblivious to that. So we're not going to allow it to be that oblivious. And we also think it's actually sheer arrogance to then even say on the 11th of April, everybody must be here, as if you're the final stop. This is just a first stop. Sheer arrogance. We are going to go and advise President Zuma to petition it, but obviously the lawyers are going to knock to shape a proper reasoning and proper grounds for all of that. But I mean, if you look at even a simple issue of the affidavits that he directed, that is now denying and all of that, both sides of the equation, both the NPA and President Zuma's legal team, were very clear that this is an anomaly. But the man does not see any anomaly in this. We then again bring a situation where we say, okay, we had intimated that this is a criminal thing. Here is more evidence to make the case. He dismisses the opportunity to even present that evidence. So indeed, we are set, if this continues, we are set for an unfair trial, and we are not going to allow it. So we are going to go to the ends of the earth to ensure that President Zuma gets a fair trial.
So do you believe that we might even see trial starting in April?
We were hoping so, but the state does not want this trial to start. If the state was serious about the trial starting, it's a simple thing. Just get another prosecutor, call President Zuma's bluff off. Why is that impossible? Is the state saying there is no other prosecutor in this country other than Downer? Is that what the state is saying? Because this whole shebang that we're busy with now is purely based on one man, the state insisting that a criminal suspect must prosecute President Zuma. And we're saying we're not going to allow a criminal suspect to prosecute President Zuma. So that's where it is. I mean, if the state was serious and genuine about issues, the state should simply say, okay, remove Downer, put somebody else, the case happens. We'll be happy to say that. But the state clearly is not interested in getting the main trial going.
Mr. Mani, you're saying you'll go to the ends of the earth, meaning what exactly? Obviously, the next step is you're saying that the likelihood of the former president now petitioning the Supreme Court of Appeal with respect to this appeal or this application. But further, it seems like now you are not happy with the way the judge himself has conducted this case. Would you also be looking into that, the judge as well?
What we've heard here basically is another a Koen arrangement, beg your pardon, a Zondo arrangement, where a person wants to insist on his own original interpretation of issues and so on. The judge read out what he had said before in his court, and he has now made a case that what I've said before is still correct even today. So basically he's being a judge in his own case, as it were, instead of having the humility to say, well, this is how I saw it. If you think somebody has to see it differently, be my guest. That's what it should be. Then justice is seen to be done. Right now, what we are seeing is an authoritarian approach. We are seeing bullying. We are saying, I guess the bus is so, and that can be this way and not other way. It's really sad. We are being bullied by the courts in this country and not going to allow it.
Mr. Mani, just briefly, next up we know that there's an appeal with regards to the medical parole issue. Do we know when that is going to be at the court?
We're still waiting for the court to pronounce on that, and we're happy that Judge Matojane had the humility to allow that process to happen. It's the same thing that Judge Koen should have done here, and then we deal with the matter at the Supreme Court of Appeal, but not this arrogance that gets displayed here, where somebody just says, my word is a final word and nothing else. Sheer arrogance. It should not be acceptable.
Mr. Mani, thank you so much for your time there. That was the spokesperson of the Jacob Zuma Foundation, Mr. Mzwanele Mani. Clearly, as you heard, they're not happy with the court's decision to dismiss former President Jacob Zuma's leave to appeal. Not only the application of leave to appeal, but also dismissing his application to appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal. But we've heard there from Mr. Mani saying that they are going to be advising the former president to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal, and that they feel that the judge has erred in his decision, and that there are a number of issues that had been raised by the former president which the judge has overlooked. So it will now, of course, be back in the former president's court in terms of what the next step is going to be. The NPA vindicated. They're quite pleased with the decision, feeling that the judge has, of course, ruled on their arguments, that they had indeed had said that the arguments that have been brought forward by the former president, one, were the application in itself, one, should not have been brought at this time, and that he should have rather waited until the end of the trial to bring this application for the state prosecutor, Advocate Billy Downer, to recuse himself, but further saying that it's clear that one of his arguments of political interference, that is not true, as the judge has said. The judge, of course, said that he summarized his judgment. He said it is a 60-page judgment, but that for the purposes of today and the proceedings today, he summarized his judgment and into 8 categories of the issues that he dealt with. Amongst them, he dealt with the matter of affidavits. If you remember, that former President Jacob Zuma had argued that there were irregularities when they were informed that there were certain affidavits that needed to be filed. The judge there saying that argument was factually unfounded and incorrect, and dismissing that application by the former president. The second part that he dealt with was the conflict of interest. The former president's defense team had argued that Advocate Billy Downer should not have disposed of an affidavit, and the judge there saying that their argument was not substantiated, and that Advocate Downer, according to the court, should indeed have filed that application, as the matter had been about him. And then, of course, the judge saying that this application by the former president should have rather been brought to at the end of the trial and not at this point. And he feels that no other court will find differently to his decision, or this court's decision. Well, they have to wait and see what will be the next step. The judge has said that both parties, now he expects that the trial will reconvene on the 11th of April, as both parties had agreed to, and the judge then ordering that on the 11th of April, both the accused, former President Jacob Zuma, and the representative of his co-accused, the French arms company Thales, that they be in court for the start of the trial. NPA is ready. 200 witnesses are lined up for the corruption case. In fact, they had earlier on brought their first witness, which is Minister Patricia de Lille, and that was before then the matter having been postponed to deal with this application. He says that the state are ready and the state's witnesses are ready. That comes from the spokesperson of the NPA, Advocate Mthunzimhaga. Of course, we're not too sure at this point what's going to be the next step for former President Jacob Zuma. As Mr. Mani has said, they are intending to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal, and whether or not that will then cause further delays in the start of the trial, we'll have to wait and see. But the 11th of April, the trial against former President Jacob Zuma must start here at the Pietermaritzburg High Court. Simpiwe?
All right, Ayanda, thank you so much for that report. We do appreciate your time. You've been working so tirelessly and incessantly on this particular case, and we do appreciate it. And I'm going to let you go for this morning. And do enjoy your day. Happy birthday again, Jomane.